All right, we are live. We're gonna get into it. Today we're gonna talk about real estate, how to get started in real estate. Today we got my good friend Art in the house. We got Art in the house. He's gonna answer your questions about real estate. Give that guy a hand. I wish this thing would work right. Probably can't. You can't hear it. Watch. This is what I usually want to. This is what I'm gonna do in the future, Art, for you.
That's funny. Yeah, I've heard that one a lot.
It's not
That's
connected
good.
first. It's not connected yet. Anyways, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
I'm doing good. How are you? It's been a while, but I
I
feel
know.
like we always pick up right where we left off.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Good to see you. You're in where you at? Albuquerque?
Yeah. I'm in the East Mountain area over there.
Okay, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's been a while. Now that the markets are turning up, people are getting a little excited.
Oh, it's such an exciting time right now to even have
Real
this live stream too, because there's so much.
real estate is a lot of opinions on real estate and all that. But before we get started, first off, tell us how you got started in real estate, Art, and basically how you got started, what got you started in real estate.
Yeah, so I had graduated New Mexico State University, and I had done some online stuff, and so I was pretty familiar already with like different networks and softwares, and so I had made some okay money my last 2 years of college, and then honestly, I worked a 9 to 5. I think there's a trend now that's kind of knocking the 9 to 5, but I had a 9 to 5, um, and that led me to purchase my first home right under an FHA. First time home buyers loan. And so that kind of got me into real estate. Little did I know it was a really good time to buy at the time. I was just buying the smallest house in the prettiest neighborhood at the time. And that's kind of how I started, a very, very surface level how I started. And that's how I owned my first home in 2019.
Oh,
Um,
dang.
yeah, so I was 22, going on 23 years old with my first. And then 3 months later, had bought two more and finished that year with about four.
That's young, bro. That's pretty young.
Yeah.
What got you so ambitious so young? Most people don't do that. They party.
Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, but you always got to find that weird balance, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of kind of when you get into that realm, you mature real quick.
Right.
I grew up in Southern California, so I left Southern California when I was 18 years old, but being in San Diego, the exposure to more and how fast the world works in Southern California kind of makes you naturally ambitious, I'd say. I went to college in a small town called Las Cruces, and so you always had like a hustle or kind of a leg up on your peers, in my opinion, right? You're coming into a way smaller market where you have the opportunity to be a big fish in a pretty small pond, and it became evident real quick, right? Um, and so yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Great parents, fitness instilled young, right? So you're just always wanting more and looking to level up, I'd say. Um, and then yeah, that first home I bought it, and then it turned out one of the neighbors had a Ferrari, and I knocked on his door one day. Because I was like, there's no way I could sleep at night knowing that that guy 4 houses down. Imagine the wisdom he has. Turns out he was from Southern California too,
Right.
so that's kind of interesting.
Okay. Okay. Um. Yeah, man. So what is your view right now? Like, what is going? Let's get into it. What is going on in real estate right now? What is the state of real estate from your view? Somebody who actually invests in real estate, right? Everybody has an opinion. So many people, real estate, this is going to happen, right? Blah blah blah. But from
Yeah.
your view, somebody who does it, what is your opinion on the state of real estate right now?
Uh, Actually, so when it comes to, because there's two sides of it, right? There's the investor side, and there's kind of like the FinTwit side, right? Like financial Twitter, financial Instagram, which is actually why I'm off Instagram because there was so much bad information on there, and it made everyone look like millionaires. But the state of real estate will never be wholesale in real estate. It's not going to be anything of that nature. It's going to be no different than buying a stock. You're buying low, right, or buying on the decline. If you have a lot of capital, you kind of dollar cost average real estate, right? Because as long as you have $25,000 to $50,000, you can really start getting into the market on a low barrier to entry there. State of real estate in anywhere but New Mexico. is declining. Commercial real estate's going down. So with investing, everything does come with a risk, right? But I'm starting to see stuff in the Phoenix area where you're at, where it was 650 grand a year or two ago for a home with the increase of COVID, and we got homes coming down to 520, $480,000 for single family homes. Even some with corner lots, right, and big lots. You want to look for 10,000 to 12,000 square foot lots, and you're not the actual home, but the lot if you include everything. You're looking to see some pretty good deals out there. And so I would say New Mexico is the only real estate market that didn't go down in the past year or 2 years. So it's kind of an interesting time to start maybe DCAing, dollar cost averaging, maybe into a real estate property when the funds come available, because the buying opportunities are definitely there. And you know, we're 30% down from the COVID high. That's still a 30% decrease, right? And this market's trying to find a new bottom. And I think there's so much impressive stuff in technology where the old school real estate guys are kind of saying, um, wait, which is true. But also, I think some of the emerging technology is and new opportunities may give us a softer landing than expected. And I don't think people realize how much money was actually made in the last 4 years, right? Um, and so it'd be really interesting to see where the state of real estate is. But I think right now anything that you can get with a 5 to 6% interest rate is a fair deal right now.
Okay, 5 to 6%. You said.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw a couple of this data. I know people have questions about it. You see, prices they say in the Sun Belt, right? So
Yeah.
Austin, Phoenix, Vegas, Oklahoma City falling apart. I mean, not
Mhm.
falling apart, but they're coming down, right? We had a lot of inflation
Yes, I
versus
mean six-figure come downs.
right versus I guess what is it? North Carolina, Indianapolis, they're going up. So
Yeah.
what would you say that what is the result? Why is Rhode Island, North Carolina, it's Raleigh, I guess these are cities, Indianapolis, Charlotte, Cleveland. Why are those prices going up versus the ones falling in the Sun Belt?
Uh, I, it's always a supply and demand question, and I'll be the first to tell you I'm not an East Coast expert, but I would say right now I think they were saying there's only like 1.5 million homes that are like emerging on the market, and there's still 3.5 million buyers. The population on the East Coast may be a little more, and that's what's offsetting that number. I would say why the East Coast is also. I think the affordability at the time, people liked North Carolina. Actually, my business partner is buying in Sumter, South Carolina at the moment, and so we're starting to see some of those smaller towns that are 45 minutes adjacent to kind of where the big areas are. Kind of, an influx of people in there, but the Sun Belt's coming down because Phoenix, I would say, and Austin. Um, the last 2 years they were trying to create a California culture, and I would say that they need to realize Beverly Hills is Beverly Hills, and I don't know if Scottsdale is quite there yet, or Austin Sixth Street is quite there yet, right? Um, and there's a ceiling, right? So I think the ceiling in those markets is going to be 750 to the low $1 million for a home. Obviously, there are some that are more than that, but then people start looking in other markets to start putting their eggs and their money, I'd
Right.
say.
Now, the big question, okay, we got two big questions here pretty much from the chat. And we'll get into that because I know originally Soggy, one of the guys, he shows up in the chat consistently.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go through these two questions. First, is it well, I guess you can answer them both together. Is it
Yeah.
time to buy a house? When should I buy a house? Everybody asks that. Is it time to buy a house? When should I buy a house? So first answer that. When should somebody buy a house? I know the regions, all that stuff depends. So give your full take on that. And then we'll dive into actually how you execute buying a house because a lot of people really just don't know or they don't
Yeah.
trust people, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you are going to live in the house longer than 5 years, right? You're going to meet a market movement of some sort, whether that's you can refinance your interest rate, right? you can kind of wait for it to go through a couple appreciation and appreciation cycles, right? If you're investing, that's a whole nother topic, I'd say. But if I needed to buy a house to live in, I'm looking right now at a 3 to 5 year horizon where I'll live in it, and I'd buy it, now if that's what's right for you in life. Now, as an investor, right, I'm looking for profitability, right? I'm looking for if I go buy a house and I could put 2 or 3 roommates to meet the occupancy threshold of living in that home, I'm looking to profit 20 to 30% on the mortgage, right? And so, for example, my brother just bought a home and he bought it at a 6.2% interest rate. He bought a home that's $260,000 that 3 years ago it was about $180,000. But, with his roommates and him living in it, he's practically living for free because they're paying the interest rate and the rent's high enough in that market for each room that it covers his mortgage. So, right. So he's living for free net. So you might as well figure out how to live for, free essentially. And that's kind of how I started, right? At the time, you didn't really know what's going on, but if you can get your costs down so low, there was a point where out of pocket for utilities, gas, everything, it was like $450 a month, and I had a 9 to 5 that was paying nearly 6 figures. Um, so that's kind of one way to look at it. But if you're going to look at actually living in the home, you're 5 to 10 years, go live in that home, right? You're going to catch a market cycle. You're going to catch, a market decline. But if you're investing, my best advice is a corner lot, 10 to 12,000 square foot lot, the home, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, or a 3 bed, 2 bath, right? Sometimes a 2.5 bath. But the corner lot's so important because you only have one neighbor, right? And I think that's a big one is strategically buying it. And we bought two on the same street, me and my business partner. And we pretty much controlled the market of that street. We had one house at the end of the street and one at the other end of the street. It was kind of like this kind of U of a cul-de-sac.
So
And no,
the corner lots are the ones that you want to invest in, right?
absolutely.
What
Yep.
about what about live? If somebody is just looking to live in a house, should they focus on the corner lot, or does it really matter? Because I know there's a lot of millennials out here who are renting. They've been renting.
Yeah.
Property prices are elevated. They're not sure. Should I buy a house, 5-6%, whatever the rates are? Should I just keep renting and wait? I guess it depends
Yeah.
on where they're at. But what do you think? How does that vary? Excuse me, should somebody purchase a house in this environment? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, right now, right, the USA, I don't know if it was USA Today. They literally yesterday put out an article that said New Mexico was the only state that didn't have a market decline, right, as far as home buying goes. And then also the buyer, right, respectfully, and this is me being 100% real, has to humble themselves a little bit um, into what they can afford, right? Does that make sense? Because I don't think people realize how expensive the suburb actually is, right? That
It does, yeah, it does.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say, but if you're a millennial, it's kind of like that Gary Vee approach. You know how he's like, eat shit, this and that. Sorry, excuse me, I didn't mean to cuss. But
No, you're good.
yeah, I would say it's that kind of approach, right? I lived in a 1,100 square foot home, my first home. I had a roommate and I had to put up with his dog, right? And love him to death. His dog was great, but it's kind of like our standard of living went down significantly, and he was making 6 figures. I was almost making 6 figures, and we were living much more humbly, right, than some of our neighbors in that neighborhood. But I think sometimes the millennial buyer is kind of skewed on how much a two-story home, 3 beds, 2 bath, 4 beds, 3 bath in the good school districts, right, actually is when they should be looking at, hey, where's the opportunity, and can I build equity in something over 5 to 10 years to roll into my next home, and then just a little bit of patience too. But I do think some of the new home buyers do have to humble themselves a little bit because there are market opportunities coming. I'm in the middle of a sale right now, and I'll probably be in the middle of the purchase in the next 4 months, as well
Okay.
as. So it's kind of you know, everyone kind of knows what they can afford, and sometimes they need a little validation, right? To tell them, hey, maybe I don't need that house. But I would say, yeah, that would be my best advice is I would purchase a home, but kind of humble yourself as to what you think you can afford. I would say.
Now I know this is going to be a question. Should somebody put down the most that they can in cash? And just give me your feedback on like how you think about it. Like, should they put down 20K or should they put down 5,000 and take the higher rate? Does it make a big difference, or what is a good reason to put down less and what's a good reason to put down more?
Good reason to put down more if that's going to be your forever home, right? So, um, it's kind of funny now that I'm 3 off 30 now. When I'm 40, 42, I'm looking at putting, $100 to $200,000 down on a home and put as much down possible because I'm probably gonna stay there at least 10 to 20 years. If I'm under 30 years old, I'm gonna protect my capital, right? I'm gonna use whatever reserves I have for other opportunities that may come up. I would use a first-home homebuyer's loan on a home that's no more than $175,000, $200,000 in a market that you can afford, right? And on an FHA, that's 3.5% down, usually on your first home, and that's going to run you $5,000 to $9,000, right? And I don't care what anyone says about $5,000 to $9,000. I get it. It's going to take some sacrifice to save that, um, but it's very doable and it's very much worth it in the long term. So I would say if you're under 30 years old, 3.5% down, put the lowest down amount possible, get roommates if you have to. If you have a spouse, you may have to have a tough conversation saying, hey, look, you know, so and so, we may need to. I've seen people, they're starting to purchase homes and put like these drywall blockers to almost make it like a condo, right? Where the people have their own living quarters in the home. They're getting real creative. I'm actually starting to see some really interesting stuff. But yeah, I would say while you're young, let's protect your capital. When you're getting into stuff like a forever home, that's not really an investment. Um, that's what I'm putting as much down as I possibly can.
Okay.
Um,
So what should somebody not do? Well, like think of all the red flags. What should you not do? Because I know you know the red flags. You think about it all the time. What should somebody not
yeah.
do?
So you should not purchase a home unless you have about $10,000 in reserve cash per home, right? Because there's going to be an air conditioner that's going to break. There's going to be, they always say Susie doesn't like the cabinets and the curtains, right? And that could be someone that's coming in to live with you, right? Um, and they may not like the look of the cabinets and stuff. And as a man that's done, Jesus, three full carpet repairs and painting, um, it definitely costs, right? So 10,000 in cash reserves, and then 5 to 10,000 down to put down on a home. So you're looking at 20 grand to get into the barrier of entry for a starter home, I'd say.
Okay. Why not
Yeah.
just go all, why should somebody do that versus I mean, I guess not why should they do it, but it seems like a lot of money. Should they just keep renting and just throw it, YOLO it into Bitcoin? You know, you've heard this before, right?
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm a pretty risk adverse guy, with the exception of real estate. Right? Is we were a little scared during COVID, um, but sometimes the YOLO guys work. I like that attitude too, and I think they called me crazy when I was purchasing as much as I was purchasing. Um, but if you're going to take chances, and I do believe in the next 2 years, YOLOing and Bitcoin probably will work. It's just probably really bad financial advice, right? Um, but I would say protect your capital, and that's where I'm going to be with that. Um, I would say there's never a day where I don't have money on the line, but always protect your capital. If I can give any advice to a young investor, young home buyer, protect your capital, right? If you're going to live in the home too, you still got to protect your capital. But I would say that's the best way to describe that, because I have like a lot of AI options right now, and that's probably not great financial advice, right? So yeah,
Yeah, right. AI options, but it fits
yeah,
your risk profile. It
yeah.
does fit your risk profile. I mean, you're a smart guy. That probably makes sense. Now, what are the steps? Because I know some people too. It's a broad subject. There's a lot to ask here. But what are the steps? Like, if you were a first time home buyer, what is the first thing you're doing? What are those first couple steps that somebody has to evaluate in their head as far as, do they go after a realtor? Do they just go to Google and say how to buy a home? Do they, you know what I'm saying? What are their first steps? What should they do? Because nobody's telling these guys. They don't really know. They don't know who to trust. They're getting scammed everywhere, right? There's deep fake realtors nowadays. So what do
Yeah,
they do?
it's crazy. So it's extremely simple, right? People love to overcomplicate stuff, and the era of social media, right, just is overstimulation. There's too much going on. You call your bank, right? Once you realize you have the funds, so let's go $15,000, $10,000 emergency fund, $5,000 to put down on a home that's in the 150 to $175,000 range. You're gonna call your bank and you're gonna ask for a pre qualification letter, right? And they're going to send you that pre-qual letter saying, "Hey, look, Mr. So and so, Mrs. So and so, here's how much you are qualified to purchase a home, and what we will likely lend you if you go pursuing a home." Cool. Then you're going to go find a realtor, right? And you're going to start looking at homes in that price range, right? And then you still kind of tell the realtor, "Hey, look, here's my price range, and then here's the lot I'm kind of looking for. I like corner lots, right? So I'm gonna stay authentic to myself. I always ask for a corner lot, right? And then you're gonna, make an offer on the home. Usually it's $1,000. They like to hold that money to to secure escrow, essentially, right? And then you're gonna go through an appraisal process to make sure the home is appraised at what you are buying it for. There's going to be inspections, and so you got to make sure the inspections are passed. And then usually within a month, you'll close on a home and you'll be considered a homeowner. Sure, the bank owns the home, but you are the owner, and you're as you go to the closing office, your name is on that deed, right? So one day, if you do pay that home off, you will get the title to that home. But in a nutshell, that is as simple as it is. And then there's some creative financing techniques. There's a myriad of different things. But as far as a first-time home buyer, that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to ask for an FHA loan, first-time home buyer's loan, and then you're going to go off to the races. If you are in the military, if you are in the government, sometimes there's VA loans, which are zero down, right? But it's still that same process, and all you got to do is pay the closing costs on the home.
Okay, so the three first steps: call your bank,
Yep.
ask.
Secure the pre-qualification letter.
You hear that, Sagi? Secure that pre-qualification letter. I don't even know what it is either.
Yep.
What
Seek a
is that? What is
realtor.
that?
It's essentially a letter that gets emailed to you by the bank. It's their lending department that says, "Hi, Sagi, right? Here is how much you can afford based off the deposits we are seeing in your account right now." And they will give you the max because the bank is interested in making money, especially at the interest rates, right? They will tell you exactly how much you can afford. So if they say, "Hey, all you can afford is $140,000 of a home," that is probably the max number, all right? Um, and so they're pretty transparent.
Okay, so once he gets that letter, he decides, okay, do I call a realtor, or does he just
Yep.
does,
You email it to a realtor right away. Trust me, the realtor will email you back within a day for sure. Especially if it's not a managing partner of a realty brokerage or something of that sort. They're a commission based, kind of mediator between the buyer and the seller, right? And they never, especially novice realtors or even realtors 5 years in, they won't they'll notice that letter when it gets sent to them because they know you're a real buyer. You get too many guys that call them, and then the realtor will be like, "What's your pre-qual? How much are you qualified for?" Because I'm not going to waste my time showing you a bunch of houses you can't afford, right? Um, or that are outside of your budget.
okay, that makes sense. That makes
Yep.
sense. Hope you guys got that clean information there. Um, are we echoing? How's it doing? Hopefully we're good here. I'm just making sure the streams. Give me a thumbs up if the stream's going well. I need to know so that we can clarify this for the future. All right, Art. So Art, um what is the, so you guys know how to get started on a home now. Now kind of moving forward, if you guys have more questions, just drop it in the chat. We'll get back to the questions. We still got about 30 minutes. Okay. What is the $1 million blueprint? What is $1 million blueprint, Art? What is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, and so I'll be the first to tell you it's not Ferraris and Bentleys, right? It's going to be $500,000 real estate portfolio, right? Which is going to be maybe a single family home that someone bought. And then, they either rented that home out or they sold it after a few years. And then they purchased another home, right? So they're able to purchase some more real estate. At that same time, they are contributing every month, either maxing or matching their company matched 401k, right? So let's say a lot of 401ks, you put in 7%, they match 7%. And so that's an automatic 100% return on your money, right? And usually there's some index funds that are a little more aggressive than others, right? And then once you're doing that, you can, go into a bunch of different Vanguard ETFs, Fidelity ETFs, and mutual funds as well. And you contribute another, $300 to $500 a month, and you can also open up a second IRA at that point, right? Other than your company matched one. Our company, we have a Roth IRA in our retirement, but I also have another one that I build, right? And you max it out every year, and it's not taxed, right? Just that blueprint alone, after 20 years of investing, right? If you're, I'm guessing you have a pretty millennial audience. By the time you're 45 to 52, you are going to probably, it's going to be really hard for you not to be at least your first million at that point, right? And I'll tell you right now, it is not that lavish of a lifestyle. The $1 million lifestyle is $10,000 a month. That is what $1 million retirement is. So I just want the viewers to realize you really got to know your numbers, right? But yeah, when you hear about a millionaire, that's 9 times out of 10 what they are. They're not ripping Ferraris up the PCH in California all the time, and
Hey,
they are there.
that's key what you said. You got to know your numbers, and that kind of resonates with this next question is knowing your numbers. You're a numbers guy. You know your numbers.
Yeah.
Sagi says, so say the bank says I can afford a 200K. Should I aim to find a home significantly below 200K to ensure I am not living above my means?
Yeah, well, it depends on your income, right? So 200,000 well, actually, this is great because the second home I bought was $197,000. So right at 200,000. Um, at current interest rates, that mortgage is about $1,700 a month, right? Right in 2019 when we purchased, it was about $1,300 a month. So that's the delta on what a 6% interest rate looks at right now. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you are comfortable with that, if that is, and everyone tells you different, but I would say if that's 20 to 25% of your monthly income, you're gonna live in it for a while. It's gonna be a place you spend a lot of time at. You know, that's what I would say. As long as you have about 70 to 75% more cash flow than what's going out towards the mortgage, I would say that that's a pretty good deal. But if I don't have the numbers to see what you go forward and whatnot, it's kind of there. When it comes to buying vehicles, I go 8% of your monthly income, right? As
Hey,
well.
you bring up a good point, because I know like this gets a little more into the weeds, which is it's not even so much how much they're gonna offer you. You got to do the math to figure out what did you say? You want your home to be less than 30% or less than 40% on the monthly.
You want to be in that 25 to 30% monthly, because once you get into that 40%, you get too close to that 50% delta, right? Um,
And explain that really quick, because I know some people just went through their head. What exactly does that mean? Stay away from the 50% delta. Can you get more into the details with that?
yeah, so pretty much easy math. Let's say I mean, I think the average income for professionals that are buying their house, you're looking at somewhere in the 50 to 60 thousand dollar a year range. So someone that makes 4,800 a month, your mortgage should not be 2,400 a month. It should be 2,000, right? If or 17 to 2,000, right? 1,700 to 2,000, because there's life expenses too, right? This life you want to make sure you live it.
Hey, is it true? Is it also true? That's good. Is it also true that if you put down, let's say, let's say in the first, let's say you get a 30-year mortgage, the first 10 years, are you paying, let's say it's at 5%, are you paying interest for like, are you pay off the interest first?
Yes, but that's almost every loan except that isn't. Okay, so I take it back. So auto loans and home loans, you're always paying interest. You just gotta. It's kind of one of those things you just gotta accept, right? You know, I like to say it. Credit's like a report card, right? Too. It doesn't. It's not. You got to apply it, right? And so you've got to have a plan on how you're going to cash flow off that investment at some point, right? So I would say I have three rentals, right? Because I sold my first home, and I'm not worried about how much interest I'm paying. I'm going to be 50, probably 54 years old by the time those things are paid off, right? And so it buys you time, but I will say that I'm cash flowing on the mortgage and profiting on each one of those homes. So, don't get caught up in I don't want to say the scarcity mindset because I don't want to really offend anyone, but it's kind of like one of those things. It's like putting gas in your car. You're not going to not put gas in your car. People will tell you, hey, buy a car, drive it for 30 years. They're going to tell you, hey, don't be so quick to buy a home so young. You're doing nothing but paying interest the first whatever. I know plenty of people that own homes that are paying $1,800 a month, and they're not really questioning how much interest they're paying on the mortgage. They're focused on cash flowing.
Okay, you got another question. What is fractional home buying?
So fractional home buying is going to be a REIT, right? Real estate investment trust. There's a few publicly traded. You can just Google REITs, real estate investment trust. It's kind of like a bond, but what's backed against it is real estate, right? So you go on Robinhood, type in a REIT, put $500 in, boom, you're invested in real estate in theory. It's just the collateral is real estate, right? So there's a lot of REITs as far as like commercial real estate REITs. There's like stuff like that with Zillow's and Redfins, which is a conglomerate, an accumulation of a lot of single family homes and residencies, and you are invested in them as well. But yeah, that would be like fractional home buying. Do I consider that real estate investing? I consider it dipping your toe in the water, right?
I mean, you're basically buying. Isn't that like saying I bought Tesla stock, so I'm kind of running a business?
Yeah, exactly. Trust me, you're yeah. Like I said, I don't want to be arrogant, but it's like one of those things you don't. I don't think you're doing real business until your accountant's
No,
calling,
bro,
right?
you gotta tell. No,
Yeah,
you gotta tell people. You gotta tell people if they're
yeah.
stupid. You gotta tell them if they're stupid. Like you can't just
No, yeah, no, I hear you, but
don't worry about
it's
because they're gonna get hurt in the long run. So you gotta tell them.
yeah. I would say it's if you're gonna go buy a home, buy it, get roommates if you're single. If you are single and there's nothing stopping you, just buy the home, rent out the rooms till you get to a point where you are almost living for free. That's what I did when I was 23 years old.
All right, we got Slime Z. I'm 16. I want to get into becoming a wholesale investor.
Yeah.
Any tips and info? Any tips or an info where and how I should start?
So since you're 16, it is if you want to, because again, social media, I guarantee you respectfully, this is where you saw wholesaling, right? 99% of wholesalers get sued, I'd say. That's not an actual statistic, but a lot get sued. I would say if you try to wholesale one of the properties I sell, you will absolutely get a lawsuit from me. It is they're essentially selling a contract, right? So a wholesaler is going to say they're going to purchase a home and they're going to get it locked into a contract, right? And then they're going to go find an investor, a pretty naive investor actually too, and say, hey, you should buy this home. Let's say they got it under contract for 100 grand. You should buy this home at $110,000. Sign here, and you're reassigning the contract to them. Nowadays, we are starting to see contracts with real estate agents that say you cannot assign this contract to anyone else or sell this contract. But I will say, wholesaling, it's good to just kind of see the market because when you're 16, just go see what the real estate market is about. But when you're 18, just go get a real estate license. Because wholesalers, you can see right through them. Experienced investors, they don't have a wholesaler at the table, right? So, um, I know a guy that he brokered $3 billion in commercial real estate in the last really he was doing it annually for a little bit. So 2.8 to 3.2 billion is what he was doing. There was never a wholesaler at that table, right? It's kind of a get rich quick kind of I don't want to say scheme, but I, go if you're stuck on being a wholesaler, go see that environment to go check it out. It's a no risk, no skin in the game way to potentially make some cash. But when you're 18, just go get your real estate license and get in the game. In a market where you see opportunity, if I'm 18 years old, I'm going to where the biggest lenders are, and that's New York and California, right? You're that young, you can get in the game there.
All right, man. Hey, thanks. This guy's giving you guys some golden advice here. So keep the comments coming. I figured out how to get you on the highlight. So
Oh
whenever you
yeah,
start talking to get rid of me, so they ain't got
yeah,
to see me. There we go. That's good. So this is our first time doing this. Exit solo. Cool. All right, Art. So again, keep throwing those questions out there if you guys got it. We're gonna move into the next question. We did the $1 million blueprint. What do you think about what is it? Asset managers slash asset managers. I know this is something you'd been talking about, and what is it? Global, not global, emerging markets. What are your thoughts on that? Emerging markets and current
yeah.
asset managers.
And it's funny. Just with this week, I'm super stoked about the whole emerging markets one, so I'll save that one for last. But as far as fund managers is, once you are getting to the point where you are making enough income and you have done a real net worth analysis, which means someone has came in and evaluated your net worth, you then start looking into fund managers, right? So we use a one that's out in New York. He manages a myriad of different funds of ours, so S&P 500 mutual funds, equities, commodities, you name it. And then also he takes a small percentage of that and exposes you to markets that the general public doesn't really know about, right? It's okay when you get into certain circles and you grow to know people. We're now with a firm that trades markets that are more volatile than even crypto. And, people are going to call that BS, but I will tell you, look at the energy markets, right? Look at what Oxy's doing. They just purchased, Berkshire Hathaway just purchased $112 million dollars of Oxy, OXY, which is oil, right? So the oil and energy markets, you really got to have a kind of an in right after time. So that's really advanced investing, and you're not going to be able to do it alone. And so that's why I have a fund manager keeps you accountable, keeps your budget accountable, and they're investing in your future, and they are definitely taking a cut.
Oh, my bad. There we go. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's your take on that, and we'll eventually talk about that later. There's a whole debate that we can get into with where energy is going. We got some more questions there here though. So Chavez Game One says, "Do you use Zillow or Redfin for research?"
Um, no, I actually do not. I would say the best way to search for a deal and a fair market value home is you're going to go look at a property manager who manages a bunch of rentals. Usually they manage a good one anywhere from 150 to 300 homes, right? So these are all people that already own homes. And a lot of the time they're already looking to offload a home sometimes, some of those buyers, right? And sometimes if you tell the property manager who has to have a real estate license anyway, um, they will tell you, oh yeah, by the way, so and so is selling a home. Here you go. Make sure you qualify. I do not use Zillow or Fan for my research. Nope.
Okay, sorry. I'm trying to get the whole. No wonder people have a team. This is tough trying to do all this stuff at once.
Yeah.
Thanks for the answer though. So he doesn't do Zillow. So you basically who do you call to do your or do you how do you do your research anyway? How do you do your research?
So thankfully, I go through a property manager, right? Those homes, they're already cash flowing homes, right? Because she's managing rentals, right? So they're cash flowed homes. I can see the lots on all the homes. I can see which ones are for sale. And then I can come to a fair market deal, 50-50 split on the closing costs. And then, um, you kind of look at the market and you look at the comps in the neighborhood and then you make a decision on if you're getting a fair deal. I know people always say foreclosures, and that's kind of the stuff that goes viral, but then you're going against a cash buyer. And that's someone that got a lot of gunpowder and the capital behind them, and you're not going to beat them to that bit. But, if we're really talking the real answer, it's going to be foreclosures. But you're going to be fighting with cash buyers. And I don't know if this audience is a cash buyer kind of crowd.
All right, we got a Soggy here. He says basically what he's saying, that 25 to 30%, if you're married, should it just be for one person or for both incomes, the 25 to 30%?
It depends how you file your taxes. If you file your taxes married, then you include that 25 to 30% married.
Okay, so depending on how you file your taxes.
Yep. So I would say household income, right? What does that household bring? If you're married, you are filing probably joint, right? So they're going to take all your income in one and then, disperse what you owe or what you don't in that way.
Is there some isn't there some tax benefits to buying a home married?
Uh, I don't know the specifics of buying them married because I'm not married, but I will say that owning rentals, there have been a lot of tax benefits. So um, every year we have on the light side, $25,000 to $30,000 in tax write-offs easily, and that includes work trucks, stuff of that nature. And so there are tax benefits, but also don't think everything's a write-off. That's a big misconception online, right? You got to be doing some real business to get tax write-offs, right? So if you're buying that, people are like, oh, you can write off a G Wagon. Okay, cool. You got to be able to write off $150,000 of taxable income, right? So don't always kind of think, oh my God, all the tax benefits, right? You got to be doing some real business to kind of go down that route. But I would say, as far as the entry starter conversation that we're having right here, is kind of get in the home, kind of learn the flow, learn how to cash flow, and you guys will be fine.
All right, yeah, thanks for that. I know there's a lot of questions. There's probably more. Don't be shy. Ask the questions while he's here. We're
Yeah,
talking about
absolutely.
housing today. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. Is it a red flag if most buyers in a market are cash buyers? Is it a red flag if most of the buyers are cash buyers?
No, because it's the deal at the end of the day, right? You are buying the deal. The home sells at X amount. The seller doesn't make a dime more or less. The only benefit a cash buyer has on a person that's getting a loan from the bank is it could close in 2 weeks, right? But if you're buying a single family home, you're not fighting cash buyers. Also, relationships are everything, right? You should if you're there's real estate groups, there's real estate kind of every city and state has them where you can work with that conglomerate of people, and eventually you'll run into a realtor and say, hey, look, I'm kind of just starting. I'm not a cash buyer. I'm a loan buyer, but I'm really trying to dip my toe in this market. Can you teach me? Look for someone that's living the same life as a life you aspire to live, and you shouldn't have 10 mentors, right? Just pick 1 to 3 people and really, really point your trajectory into that direction, I'd say.
Okay, and like you said before, the only time, like for you as a purchaser, that it's going to benefit you is if you're going to live in the home to be a cash buyer. If you're renting, or if you're investing in real estate, you don't necessarily want to be a cash buyer, correct? Does that make sense?
At service level, yeah, at service level, and then it gets deep, man. We're gonna have to do a whole other podcast, but we'll go into strictly investor cash buyers, and that's guys that are already very wealthy that are like, hey, look, it's either this tax bill that I gotta go pay the government, or I'm gonna go buy a piece of property, cash, and I'm gonna go rent it out, and I'm gonna cash flow 2 to 3 grand a month back in my pocket, right? But that's a whole nother net worth and level that I haven't even attained yet, right? But
Okay, so that's there's a lot of strategy with real estate, different
yep,
regions. It sounds like
yep,
if you're depending on where you're at, like if you're in let's see, if you're in in Phoenix right now, you might, because did you hear about the Airbnb collapses happening in these certain
Dude,
regions? Have you heard about
I just got a listing, and dude, because and it's funny, call flow. I started getting a bunch of live call flow too, just on options. Dude, I'm so stoked about this week, and it's funny. We're doing a real estate podcast right now, but I'm so stoked about everything going on.
No,
Um,
go for
but
it. Go for it. We're
but yeah, we will. But yeah, Airbnbs, dude. I just got a listing, and everything in certain regions, 40 to 50% decline in revenue. So many Airbnb fraudsters that are like, "Yo, we're gonna go rent a house from someone, and then we're going to post it on Airbnb, which is super illegal. That's actually the definition of fraud. Um, there, be careful who your gurus guys are. 9 times out of 10, wholesalers are frauds, um, and so are Airbnb gurus who are renting homes that they don't own. Because I'll tell you what, if a tenant tries to Airbnb a home I own, I'm gonna sue them. It's not in the agreement. So just be careful, guys. Get rich quick is it's a very slow process, and I'll tell you right now, some of the biggest guys in the game are in social media. So that's also a big one to go on. But yeah, and I think the other one was emerging markets, right?
yeah, emerging markets. I was gonna yeah, let's talk about emerging markets. Before we get there though, I wanted to show this really quick. Like I would say this, I'm no expert, but I think you're better off just buying the stock than doing Airbnb because you can just get out if it doesn't
Yeah,
work out.
yeah.
The thing
Airbnb stocks like a REIT, right? Hey, you're kind of in.
Yeah, you're kind of in, but yeah, a lot of people are doing that fraud stuff, and there's just it's I guess it's such a new niche that there's not a whole lot of regulation or rules that people thought about around it. So
Yeah, it's kind of, I'll
not,
tell you what, HOAs, expensive neighborhoods, they're cracking down on Airbnb guys. But I'd say right now, I don't think Airbnb's the play right now. I think if anyone, and again, it's so important to listen. The first 4 hours of the day, I'm listening to live feeds, podcasts, and recently the Snowflake Summit at Caesar's Palace in the Forum Shops over there in Vegas. I think the AI opportunity, and I know it's probably been shoved down everyone's throats lately, is going to be interesting, right? So we had just yesterday, and I think Snowflake, and this is a hot take, Jeremy. I think you want to hear me on this one. The
yeah,
mistake
I'm
I think
listening.
the mistake I think Palantir made, and I think Palantir is going to be a successful company, is they poise themselves too much as a defense, like catering to the defense contractors, right? So all DoD background checks uses Palantir, right? Um, but Snowflake is kind of becoming this cloud database for the commercial markets that are kind of away from the DoD world, right? We got NVIDIA, we got Amazon potential talk of going on of using their some of their technology. And rumor has it Microsoft may be announced this week. Also, this is I was getting a call today. Call flow on Snowflake, not financial advice. 260 August 18 calls. We're having millions of dollars in call flow today. That this morning. That just doesn't happen for no reason, right? I get so
Right.
pumped up about this stuff because, and I'm sure, I hope the audience knows. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, but I think it's really interesting to see like what Snowflake's gonna do. It's gonna do what I think Palantir should have capitalized on in the commercial markets, and I think it's really really cool.
Yeah, we can debate that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can debate that, or we could just keep track of the price. But
Yeah,
yeah, Snowflake. I mean, Warren Buffett, I believe, has. I mean, Berkshire Hathaway
yeah,
has a stake in Snow. A lot of people like Snowflake.
yeah,
Um, I don't think. Again, we're not. The problem is, me and you are not a software engineer, AI guy, so we can't really
yeah,
get deep into the. It's just like who.
yeah,
What did they say? Who said what? He said what?
yeah,
Right? Peter
yeah,
Thiel. But no, no,
exactly.
it's going higher. It's
Yeah,
breaking out. I mean, it is breaking
yeah,
out of a wedge. And as long as I always
yeah,
say, and this is my thing, is as long as
yeah,
we're at the bottom of the cycle, everything's going to go higher. That isn't falling
yeah,
apart completely. And
yeah.
so we'll see what goes. We'll see what goes the most. But for sure, is that the
Yeah,
emerging markets? Is that what you're talking about? Emerging markets, or just Snowflake was a hot take? You're bull. What are you bullish on? That was another thing. What are you bullish on right
Yeah.
now? What are you
Uh,
bullish on the markets? I know you dip into stocks.
Yeah, like I said, obviously, mutual funds and myriad different funds, right? That I have with fund manager. A lot of other stuff that I'm liking is uh, Ken Griffin. Man, I like Oracle. I like Oracle. I want to see what he's gonna do. And did you hear about like the actual story of him in Malibu?
No.
Okay, so he's a huge real estate guy. He owns two of the original coves over the last 20 years in over the next 20 years in Malibu, right? You know how all the celebrities like to go eat at some of those restaurants like Nobu and all those places, right?
Yeah,
Those places didn't exist without Ken Griffin. Ken Griffin lived in the cove right there in Malibu. I forgot the name of it.
bro. Who the
And
hell is Ken Griffin, bro?
he, he was the wasn't he the CEO of Oracle? I'm trying to think.
Oh, I don't know. I honestly, I
Yeah,
don't. He probably is. I don't know.
yeah. He's the CEO of Oracle. Yeah, and dude, he started buying up all the real estate there, right? And in the early 2000s, and then his favorite restaurant was actually Nobu, and he asked the chef to make that restaurant because he wanted it walking distance from his home. And then the restaurant across the street or next to it was actually his girlfriend, the name of his girlfriend at the time. He was creating like a utopia for himself. And I think he is kind of set to make a comeback over the next 5 years as I think he finally goes into retirement. He's a lot older now, but I think he's going to really try to capitalize in the next half decade, if not decade.
So
And
he's
that's
trying to
really,
create a utopia over there. So
yeah.
Oracle like located in California then?
Yeah, it is based out of California. Yep.
Yo, these
Yeah.
guys, bro, these
Yeah.
guys with the egos. Who knows if we had billions of dollars, we might be a little. Everybody says
Dude,
I
he named
wouldn't.
a restaurant after his ex-girlfriend. It was crazy.
He's a simp, bro. I This is not
Yeah,
TikTok. I can say that on here.
yeah,
I believe I can. Hopefully YouTube's not that
yeah. But
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 that's
it's
a
it's
simp, bro.
crazy.
Your ex-girlfriend? What?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think it was his girlfriend at the time. I forgot the name of it, but anyway, it's next to Nobu right there, and and that Nobu was his favorite restaurant. So he told the chef, "Hey, look, I'll buy the property. Um, you just start making your food there, and then he is stupid rich, but I think how he'll incorporate AI in the next 5 to 10 years will be interesting. I think Snowflake's going to be real hot, but I don't think it's going to be hot just because of this week. I'm really looking forward to see what it's going to do over the next 3 to 4 months, especially with the call flow that's been coming in.
Yeah, it's gonna blow. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. A lot of stocks are gonna go up with AI. I'm not an expert on Snow, so I can't really
yeah,
speak about it. I know that Palantir has less debt. Snow is full of debt.
yeah,
Palantir has zero debt, which is they have a better balance sheet. Snow might be a little more popular. Palantir has that, but I don't know enough about Snow
yeah.
to fully like dive in.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they have a lot of debt because, like, if you think about it, like you listen to the All In guys, right?
is
Um,
that a Chamath?
yeah, those guys. So,
Bro,
so, so, so
ever since he punked all his guys, bro. No, didn't he
yeah,
pulled out on space, he pulled out an open door, he he pulled
yeah,
out on everything.
he pulled out on a bunch of SPACs, is what because remember how there was the big SPAC push, and then they
Hey, what
all
is that podcast? Some of these guys might need to listen to it because, like you said, one of the habits to become successful is taking in more information
yeah.
than
So
entertainment. So tell them about
exactly.
the podcast
Yeah.
first.
So I listen to the All In podcast. I also listen to the group chat pod, right? Those guys are tech guys out of LA, and then the All In ones is out of Northern California. I get it. California has some things that I don't agree with, but they are still the forefront on some I would say emerging markets, education, stuff of that nature. Now, crime, downtown areas I'd stay away from. But it's really interesting to see what they're doing. But I think Snow has a lot of debt because I think they can get a lot of free debt, right? I think it's like Twitter, right? So I think they said the one of the main backers was J.P. Morgan that was funding Elon Musk's Twitter acquisition, right, for $44 billion. There is a rumor that has it, and actually it was stated on the group chat podcast. That they're going to let him sit on that debt until it becomes profitable. some of these VCs are so lenient, and I think that's going to be the case with Snowflake. They've got a lot of debt, but I think they're going to allow um, their AI data cloud infrastructure play out as well. And I think they will be profitable. But also, what company didn't raise debt at a 20x, 100x multiple, right? If you're looking at what Nvidia's trading like 40x times its earnings or something crazy like that, I don't think there's anything rational in these markets. And I think it's really interesting to see. I'm really interested to see in 2024 who's going to be left, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. There, everybody has to take out debt.
Yeah,
So you're gonna it's just like over time, are you do you have demand, right? And that's
yeah,
the real question is, do you have demand? Are you
yeah,
doing an innovative product, which Snow is? The question is, do are they a monopoly? I think Palantir is the monopoly in its space from what it's doing
yeah,
with Edge AI. Snowflake is not doing Edge AI. So
yeah.
really, they're not even completely, people get it wrong. And I would
Yeah.
listen to Amit on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, I will.
Snowflake's a cloud AI. So it's,
Yeah.
hey, sounds great. It's gonna go higher, blah, blah, blah. But Palantir is not necessarily cloud, it's more
Yeah.
edge AI. It's doing some other stuff. So they don't
Mhm.
completely, but yeah, debt
Yeah.
isn't the issue. It's more so, is your revenue growth
Yeah.
accelerating faster than your
Yeah.
debt, right?
Yeah.
That's the real question. And is your demand, your user base, is it
Mhm.
growing, and is your product better than the others? But again, we're not
Yeah.
software engineers, so it's kind of hard to
No,
tell.
I hear you, and I think as a guy that used Microsoft all day today, right? If the announcement this week happens, that I think is going to happen with it, there will be a lot more usage of Snowflake's program. But I think Palantir is great too. It's something I do personally own as well. At least shares in, right? So it's good. It's going to be great, and then I'm really looking forward to see what this year brings. I do think we're going to see a series of pullbacks over the next in due time, but I think people realize, I think with all the hype and everything, we're not going to get an '08 real estate recession like we did. I think we're already seeing stuff that declined like '08. People just aren't paying attention because there's so much noise. There is stuff that's 20 to 30% off its highs in emerging markets. Well, in not emerging markets, in plenty of markets, like Chicago. Chicago was down a certain amount. The luxury side of Phoenix took a dump. Anything over 650K started dumping pretty significantly. So
Hey,
it'll be interesting.
hey, that's very true. I'm actually writing a post about this. I wanted to get kind of your input.
Yeah.
And what it is, let me make sure I'm on the right one. What it is what we're seeing here, because I look at more of the macro stuff. I don't know the micro housing market slash real estate. I don't
Yeah.
know that. I just look at the macro. And obviously, we're seeing rents start to fall. So we expect the Fed to pause. I do anyway, for them to pause, because
Yeah.
real rents are way lower than the CPI. The real rents are lower, so that's going to
Mhm.
come in, blah, blah, blah. But this was interesting. Redfin had this data that showed that there's a lot of supply, and maybe about this market. The multifamily properties of 5 units or more are at a decade high, well, like a 20-year high. They're exploding for those multifamilies. So it looks like, the way I'm looking at it, a greater demand for the non-interest rate tied housing.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if that makes sense, but apartments, right? Like, is that what multifamilies are? Basically, apartments, rents.
Yeah, so multifamily is going to be apartments, but there's a certain point when apartments come into like the commercial world, right? Which is where you're over, you're taking on like $1 billion project, right? That's going to be a commercial, like a New York skyrise with condos, right? Is going to
Yeah.
be in the commercial world. I would say something that's, I need to get the exact number. I'll get to you. 50 to 100 units in a residential area is still a decently large project. But you said the supply was going up in multifamily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
according to the Redfin, it looks like the build, like the new, so what it is new privately owned housing units completed,
Hmm.
with 5 or more units, seasonally adjusted, is going higher. So they're building more of these rents. My thesis
Yeah.
was, people, prices are just too high, getting a mortgage, getting
Yep.
rent. So they're building fast for that. That's the builder, the home builders, I guess, or whatever you want. I don't know
Yeah.
who builds apartments.
So it just came out yesterday. I think the new home builds are an all-time high. I didn't see it with apartments though, however. But if the supply of apartments are going up and they're vacant, that's going to be correlated to some of the commercial dive, right? Some debt and some debt they're walking away from. They're just turning in the keys to the banks, on their
And check
properties.
and look at this bottom one. This is the old supply. So tenants, basically rental vacancies hit highest level in 2 years. This was
Mhm.
about 2 months ago. So this was
Yeah,
two months ago. So vacancies are going up. Isn't that the old supply now coming online?
yeah. So that's gonna definitely become. What's funny is I'm actually the where I live. The guy that rents across that's been vacant for a while, and we're starting to see a lot more vacant units even where I live. But we're more on the luxury side of the market up here as well. So yeah,
So here's the other part too. Like, and I just want to run this by you just to check because I'm looking at the macro. The ETF, because we all know the stock market actually leads the economy, even though people say, "Oh my God, the economy is going down, so stocks should go much lower." But they're still sitting in cash. Stocks are going up. The housing U.S. home construction ETF all-time highs.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, so that's at all-time highs.
yeah. So
Pending,
that's a
pending.
that's a REIT, by the way. That's
That's
gonna
a
be
REIT. Okay.
yeah, that's gonna be a REIT. Yeah.
That's a REIT. So pending home sales bouncing,
Yep.
existing home sales bouncing, new home sales all bouncing from the
Yeah.
COVID lows. Like they're all moving higher at this point. Could they roll over? Sure. But
Yeah.
but it's pretty interesting to see this and then to see the home builder sentiment also exploding from the lows,
Mhm.
right? And then you see building permits, people are building more, new construction, these housing starts, new construction builds
Yeah.
also going up. So it looks like the housing market is starting to really start to bottom,
Mhm.
and that's one of my anti-recession, not anti-recession, but I call it the rolling recession. But now the housing's coming up. It's like, all right, so maybe we're not going into, like you said, '08. We're not
Yeah.
nearly as bad as we were in '08.
No, we're not. But there are definitely some areas where you saw a decrease like '08, right? So they were saying Seattle at the time, San Francisco, and another city in Northern California were the top five markets that declined the most in the last year. And so you're looking at, think about it, someone that purchased, let's say they purchased 10 homes in San Francisco and it went down 30%. That's going to be an '08 style crash, right? But it's also, and it's actually, I have a friend that's very successful. He was talking, and we were talking. We were bouncing recession ideas. You know how sometimes you have group chats that are kind of like think tanks, and everyone's like, "I'm trying to make sense of this," which is I recommend everyone to get like
Right.
a group of friends where you're just always kind of talking about, ideas and to bounce off. And he had a really good take. He said, "Hey, Art," he said, "we pumped so much liquidity into the fake debt. The government punched so much debt into the market. The S&P 500 went up to 4,800 at its peak before it went down, right?"
Right.
He says it hit 4,800 and it comes back down. He says if it comes back down 30%, 40%, we're really coming back down to what 2019 was, right? Even if it comes down to 3,800, we are still, um, he says it's an argument that you're coming back down to pre-pandemic style S&P 500 levels. So he says, is that a recession? I don't know. He says a real recession is, and I don't have the exact data here, but if we have time, what was the 2019 S&P 500 right before COVID hit? I forgot what it
Uh,
was.
it it was about, let me. Well, I can literally look at it. It was
Yeah.
let's see, we got up to 4,800. So the pre.
But no, we didn't get up to 4,800 in 2019 though,
Well, no, I'm
right?
saying like we
That
got
was
to.
a spike.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
before COVID, we got to 3,400.
Okay, right. So before COVID, we got up to 3,400,
Right.
and government says, "Hey, look, free money, zero interest rates. Go get a car, go get a house." Right, inflates everything. S&P's flying. It goes to 4,800. Right. If we go down to 3,800 this year from 4,800, that's an 1,000 point decrease. Right. So you're looking at a what out of 4,800? Easy math, 25% decline in the market. Um, I don't know if that's considered a recession, right? Or are we getting back to a norm, right? Because 2019 is the 30, your baseline is 3,400 at that point. I
Right.
don't know if we're going to see an '08 recession, but that was one of the most important conversations I had with someone last year. Is because when you're going through these market turmoils and you're in it, right, you are really, really um, stressed, right? We all go through it. It's not like it's a smooth journey. And that was a conversation that really helped. So I want all the listeners to realize, hey, look, if we go to 3,800 tomorrow, we're still above 2019. And I think the low was 2,800 when the market completely went on SPX, right? So
When we dumped hard,
yeah, I think we were
pandemic,
28. Yeah.
21, 21,
Oh, 21. Okay. So
22,
yeah, so
21, 21, 22. It was basically 20, call it
22.
22. Yeah, call it
Yeah.
2200.
And we're trading at what, 43.40 right now, somewhere in there.
Yeah, we're at 43. And part of that difference is the
Yeah.
fact that most of the
Yeah.
debt, like people like to measure, well, first of all, we sold off more in the market than '08. As far as
Yeah.
market cap, we sold off more than
Yeah.
$10 trillion. If you count the bond market, sold off too. That was the big thing,
Yeah.
right? In '08, the bond market went up because people bought bonds when
Mhm.
everything crashed. Here, everything sold off. S&P,
Yep.
Nasdaq, bonds, crypto, everything got gold, everything got crushed. So what does that tell you? That tells you this was actually bigger than '08. But the difference is '08 was the first time they ever introduced QE, which is
Yeah.
they use the balance sheet to cover all the debt. Now we do that like automatically. So when we got the bank failures, that should have been like '08, but instead the Fed's
Yep.
balance sheet, the Fed just dropped 450 billion into the banking sector and covered all the deposits.
It's absolutely crazy, right? What's going on, and um, it's kind of like the saying goes, and I think over the last 20 years they've been saying banks and airlines they always get bailed out, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I think with these on top of emerging markets is kind of be aware of where the momentum is, especially for young investors and listeners here. Um,
Here's the momentum.
yep. Oh yeah, Bitcoin. Yeah. I have a
Someone
small stake. Yeah.
someone said live in a tent and buy. Who do you know any guy that says live in a tent and buy Bitcoin?
Luis. No, I'm just
Louis,
kidding.
Louis,
Yeah,
live in
yeah.
a tent and buy Bitcoin. Yeah, do that. Just make sure you don't, you contract it. Make sure you don't get killed on the street. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think living in a tent by Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, you can do that, right? I would say in the Discord, your Discord, I'm one of the more conservative guys, right? Because I think if you really build something of value over time, you don't always need the 300%, 1,000% swing, right? But I am paying attention to the crypto and AI markets right now, and I am putting a significant stake in those markets. So hopefully, maybe I'll be singing a different tune in a year or two.
right. No, no, no. That's true. That's true. We got another question here. Josiah Fielder. I wonder who that guy is. Looking ahead, what are your predictions or forecasts for the future? We kind of went over this a little bit, but the forecast of the future of the real estate market and what factors are likely to shape its trajectory in the coming years.
So it's gonna be like a net worth analysis, right? That is gonna be so. For example, the average income in the United States is like $33,000 a year, right? But then also, how many new millionaires and how many people are making over $100,000 a year? So right, so the number is 10% of all Americans make over $100,000 a year, right? Um, the 1% of that category is making more than $250,000 a year. When those percentages start going up, it does start moving those markets a little bit. Um, and then when interest rates go down, which will be if we start seeing 4% again, you're going to start seeing people that make 45 to $65,000 start jumping back into the housing market and propping that up as well. So I would say if the interest rates come down as low as they did again, people are getting 2.8 to 3.5% interest rates, you're going to see a spike. But I think we're going to get down to what's in that 5 to 5.5 range because we're at 6.25 right now on interest rates. That then you'll start seeing people hop in the market a little bit. But people really start hopping in the market when you start getting into the low fours and low threes. But I don't think we'll see that for a while.
Right. And that's interesting because that you look at it that way because people are still, I mean, the fact that those home sales are still bottoming with the rates this high is pretty interesting. And I think the other part of that fact is inflation's already cut in half and it's falling. So that kind of, that's almost
Yeah.
like a reverse interest rate cut, right? If the rate of interest or the rate of inflation is coming down, then your stocks are going up. Maybe you feel richer,
Yeah.
maybe you invest in a house, who knows?
Yeah.
But for sure, I think rates come down quicker than other people. The way I'm looking at things, I think rates come down a little quicker. But again, mortgages are a little different. They're looking at those 30-year treasury bonds. So we'll see how that, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to keep this up, man. This is good
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. I'm enjoying it, and there's a whole other thing with mortgage brokers and how how predatory they actually are when it comes to a bull market for real estate.
Hey, real quick, Art, what do you think about? Because I know there's some people too, Luis, we got to get him on here eventually, and really just the future of automation, AI, right? 3D printing, cutting the cost of making a house, creating more housing at a faster rate. Does that destroy the real estate investing market over time? Like, does it destroy the returns? Because does that make sense? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Have you thought about that?
No, but I do think about AI a lot, and I'll say this because I haven't seen it used in real estate yet, right? And I don't know if we're going to be 3D printing parts for homes. I have seen 3D parts printed for vehicles. I will say that I use AI now almost daily in my daily job, right? So the fact that I use it daily to assist me with certain tasks, I do the majority of the tasks, but I have used it to, to help me and in my daily life. And then there are other sectors and engineers, right, that are using AI significantly and kind of working on that forefront. What it will do in real estate, I cannot answer that question firmly, and I'm humble enough to say that it won't. Now, the second it can start putting, the two by fours together, and you really have you know, ground up stock. It could build a home ground up at the same quality of what a person could do it. Then yeah, it will. But I would say if you're looking to just get into the real estate market, I wouldn't worry about it crashing, well, affecting it in a negative or positive way at the
I don't
moment.
think it would crash. It would more so
Yeah.
just slow down the return because you'd have more supply. I don't know if you crash.
No,
Um,
it would affect the workers, right? And there's a bunch of like what if questions. You basically it would do what I think respectfully I think that's kind of like a doomsday question, right? I think it's when people are like AI is going to take over everyone's job, it would literally take over a general contractor's job, right? The home builder. Hey, I don't
right.
need 10 employees. I don't need I think it could affect architects' jobs in the future, right?
Oh,
Because now you
100%,
because now
100%.
you don't need an architect too. Now I can have this AI bot that's like, hey, look, this is what I'm kind of thinking. Build me 5 displays, right?
The other thing is that this new,
Models.
all these technologies converging are like an atomic bomb, like a nuclear weapon. So we're gonna look back in 2 years, and there's gonna be Elon's gonna come up with some factory that
Yeah,
produces car parts at a fastest rate. Not car parts, I'm sorry,
yeah,
housing parts. 3D prints housing parts and then puts the homes together, ships them out on a
yeah.
diesel, and you're gonna be like, "Damn, that came very quick."
No,
So we'll
yeah, and it is going to come. And I'll tell you what, I just toured Amazon with one of the CFOs out of Denver. He manages that region, and they are already implementing AI technology to put out 250,000 orders a factory. So
okay.
just to put that into perspective, they're already integrating AI, and it's catching a lot of theft, right? So like workers that are catching like that are attempting to steal, right? They have a lot of programs now that can nail it down. I think AI is going to prevent a lot of crime in the future, and especially I just went out to California and I noticed all the cameras and stuff that I thought that I saw, and I'm sure they're all on a network, but I'm starting to see stuff that I was like, that's probably a good idea 10 years ago. We should have had that, right? Like the parking lot cameras and stuff
Oh
of that
yeah, for
nature.
sure. Yeah, it's gonna
Like,
stop. It's gonna slow. Think about. I was talking to this dude about. He was in the police academy. Well, not the police
yeah,
academy. He worked for the police force, and he said AI training cops better. To
yeah,
I'm saying training cops better, preventing this, preventing
yeah,
that. So that should definitely increase the productivity. We'll get a couple more questions in before we've been on here, a little longer, and then we'll go
yeah,
through really quick. We'll go through the before we'll do this last question, and then we'll go through the habits of an entrepreneur, right? The habits, your habits, right? What do you do? We want to hear about what you do, Art, to stay focused and all that. So let's go through this first.
Yeah, absolutely.
How might the growing demand for electric vehicles impact the design and construction of new residential developments, and what features or amenities might become more prevalent as a result? It sounds like a Chat GBT question. Damn, that
Yeah,
was
we're starting to see a lot of solar on the roof, stuff of that nature. But also, we're seeing homes that are new builds. They're already putting the Tesla chargers in there. I know ChargePoint is working with it's another. They don't have the same network as the Tesla chargers, but I would say ChargePoint is already starting to make a lot of deals with general contractors to implement their electric car technologies into real estate.
well. They just actually changed their technology to fit the superchargers because of the demand, because GM, Ford,
Yeah,
all of them, Volt, Rivian. So now ChargePoint, they dropped like 20% of the stock, and then they
yeah.
made a deal, said, okay, we're gonna change our technology to fit the supercharger network. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, what features, amenities might become more prevalent as a result? Yeah, that's a pretty deep question. I don't know how to answer that one. I mean,
Yeah,
that's on you.
yeah, I would say when you're purchasing a new home, you're going to purchase it with a supercharger in the garage, and then already implemented. It's going to look a lot more streamlined. If I take a guess, your security system is going to be completely AI generated. It's going to do have facial recognition technology now, right? It's going to be all kinds of crazy. But I'll say this now. You go to Beverly Hills, you go to Newport Beach, you go to Bel Air, those guys already got it in their house, right? I would say, if you're an exec at Microsoft, this stuff is already at your house, guaranteed.
Right. So superchargers in the garage, mega battery pack, solar panels, they got all that
Yeah,
stuff. That's the future for most people.
yeah, and,
Okay.
and it's already here. I think just some of us are in denial about it, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
I think because New York and California, and I don't really get political. They're relatively blue, so they get a bad rep in some areas. But as far as a technology forefront, they're there. I think in 5 years I won't be driving gas cars. I fully believe that. I love my toys, but I think we'll go away from gas here pretty
Bro,
soon.
it's all good. We got Tesla bulls in the chat. We don't got we got some Tesla bulls, so they all believe that. Those you gas
Yeah,
people out there, fossil
yeah,
fuels and blah blah blah. You're probably a baby boomer because
yeah.
it's not happening. It's gonna change pretty quick.
Yep. Nvidia, Snowflake, Microsoft, and Tesla calls, man. It's gonna be the year. It's gonna be like a
AMD,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. AMD. I have plenty of AMD calls as well, dude. I
Got the
I I,
hey, real quick. Did you see what happened with China though? China or well,
I
for one, China banned Micron, right? Number two, the US is now considering taking away the chips from AMD. I'm sure you read that AMD and
yeah, yeah.
Nvidia banning the chips to go to China so that they can't catch up. They're already
So
lowering the quality of the chips. Now they're saying we're not going to give them any chips. And I was a little worried about that. I was like, dang, should I take this AMD call?
no, and I think AM. Well, I know for a fact the Nvidia CEO, right? I forgot his name, but they were saying that the demand for the demand isn't going away, right? So they're cutting the supply. It's just now, like Biden's comment, right? And we're everyone, the market barely brushed it off. And after hours yesterday, there was a reaction to it, but they brushed it off today because now that we're going to just go send them to Taiwan or Vietnam, and then they're going to go send them to China, right? Logistics systems are made for a reason, and there is a work around it. And just because you ban something doesn't mean it's not going to happen, right? Look at the U.S. fentanyl, right? You really want to go down that route,
Right. I mean,
they get
the
it
way
here.
I'm thinking about it, you're gonna lower GDP just
Yeah.
to you can't do it forever. If they,
Okay.
you're not
40
gonna
seconds.
slow down
Yeah.
China. You just gotta compete better because you're gonna lower the
Yeah.
US's GDP, and you
Yeah.
just don't want to do that. If anything, just get better than China. Just pay these companies more, open more jobs. They're doing that. The Chips Act, we're already doing that. Biden unleashed another stimulus bill, by the way. I don't know if you saw that the internet, the Wi-Fi, $42
Yeah.
billion Wi-Fi bill, bro.
So, something like Wi-Fi is like a right, or it's like a something like that, right? It's a necessity or
It's a
something to that
necessity, like
tune.
electricity. They're
Yeah.
comparing it to back in the day when Roosevelt made some after World War II, he did, or maybe it was during World
Yeah.
War II, I don't know. He did some stimulus where everybody needed electricity. It's like, yeah. So hey, we're in the boom. It's coming.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
definitely booming.
I
I
think anyone with 3 to 6 month leaps, is probably gonna be okay.
100%, I agree. All right, Art. What are your so take us through your routine on a daily basis. Take us through your routine. What keeps you focused? How do you stay successful? Real estate, learning. What do you do? What is your routine? What is your millionaire routine there?
So yeah, and like I said, I would say, not quite millionaire, but probably on track, right? I had $1 million in real estate holdings, right? Not liquidity. So I always like to be completely transparent there. But as far as it goes, is you stick to um, faith, family, fitness, friendships, and then finance comes. You get those five things in order, you're going to be fine. I wake up in the morning somewhere between 5:45 and 6:10 a.m. 10 ounces of coffee, not a dime more of coffee, just because I don't like the anxiety and how jittery it makes me feel. And then I go to the gym. It's usually less than an hour, over 40 minutes, less than an hour. Then I go to work. I usually have a podcast on, All In Podcast, group chat pod. Um, and then I'm, in touch with a few guys in some chats, myriad different things. And I'm kind of listening to, right now all day, the Snowflake Summit. Um, and then just going about my day. And then at the end of the day, just dinner. I will check some of the After Hours pre-market stuff, but I know I'm confident in what I'm investing in. I believe in it. So I usually don't try to stay up all night trying to, map out after hours and stuff of that nature. Then I go to bed usually by 9:30 p.m. I'm rarely up after 10 p.m. I've completely eliminated beer from my life, and I do indulge in the occasional wine or like mixed drink. I would say that's kind of my routine.
Okay. Couple fun questions. DeSantis. I say DeSantis, or Trump.
DeSantis.
Elon or Zuck.
As much as I like what Meta is doing, and Elon, if you look at it, he's the only entrepreneur in the last 20 years to do like, I think they said five companies that were worth over $1 billion or something crazy like that.
Right.
Between all his companies, so it would be Elon, but I think Zuckerberg, he left his print, and after that show, The Social Network, I have mixed feelings about it.
What about in a jujitsu match though? Who you got?
Zuckerberg's winning.
Oh yeah, Zuck. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
UFC or boxing?
You know what? Boxing was making a comeback for a little bit. I don't really like what De La Hoya has been doing with promoting his fighters, but I think Dana White has always stayed pretty level-headed with everything he does. Right? He's never changed from his narrative. People will harp about fighter pay, whatever. There's always a baseline, right, of what he's kept for the UFC, and then it's kind of funny when some of these UFC fighters 3 or 4 years later out of the UFC will say how much their paydays were, and they were pretty good paydays. It would sound like plenty of $1 million purses the UFC was giving.
What was the last? We got a question. What is the last book you read, and what was your takeaway on that? That's a good question there.
I'm reading, in the process of reading, Burn the Boats, Matt Higgins, and it teaches you no plan B, just go with plan A. Keep your foot on the gas and go. And then not to be afraid to kind of switch jobs while you're young. That was a really interesting take. Have a plan A to what your personal goal and lifestyle wants to be. But he said, don't be afraid to go jobs to climb that ladder, right, to get there.
Right.
And so that was a really good one. And he's been on Shark Tank a few times, and that was good.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, Art, it was a pleasure to have you on. We got to do it again, man. We got to do it again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I would like to, talk about real estate investment strategies, and really focus on that, because there's some really cool stuff you can do with it. But I think we covered a lot of good subjects today, man.
Where can people find you? I got your Twitter and your Instagram and the link. Is there anywhere else people can find you?
I don't have Instagram anymore. I just I'm kind of real quiet nowadays.
No wonder.
My Twitter. If you go Art Hernandez, you'll find it.
Maybe I didn't. Maybe I couldn't find your Instagram,
Yeah.
and so I linked to your Twitter profile and the website. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you guys can find them Twitter, link in the bio. Thanks for you guys that joined, and Art, I appreciate you. We're gonna have you on again. All right, man.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, guys.